WGR Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. Happy holidays, everyone. It is March Madness. It is the Sports Bar. You found us. Tell a friend. 866-4326. You can call us at any point. Our handle on X, WGR Rochester, if you're so inclined to tweet. We're on YouTube and Twitch. You can leave a comment there as well. 95.7 FM, AM 950 on the Odyssey app. Those are the platforms. This is the show. My name is Gene Battaglia. As always, joined by a fine producer, the birthday boy, Tim Schneider, who I will at least give you this credit. I look down on people who take off for their birthday. You know better than that to take off for your birthday.
Yeah, no, I used to do that in like high school and college, but then it's real life now. So yeah, I'm feeling the same way I felt for about 10 years now, sore and tired. I played hockey last night, should not have, but here we are, the best day of the year, not because it's my birthday, but because the dance has begun.
That's it. And Ohio State, kind of a sleepy start for the Buckeyes. We are underway. They're through first quarter. Ohio State's down by 15. TCU, 39-24, leading here. Troy is up on Nebraska, 13-12. That's early on. The Buffalo games will be coming up here next hour. South Florida, Louisville to start it at 1:30. Here's the crazy thing about the Buffalo games. Like, if you've never been to the first round, I highly recommend it. Too late now, right, for Buffalo today. But usually the way this works, and this year is no different, is that you have kind of an afternoon session and an evening session. Your one ticket doesn't get you 4 games. You can either buy the evening or buy the afternoon. The reason they kind of do that is, well, the majority of purchasers on the secondary market, of course, are always there to support their school. Well, for TV reasons, they're only giving 1 hour of time for Buffalo to clear out after the end of the afternoon session before you get to 7 o'clock tonight for when they have Michigan on. And certainly they want to get Michigan into that primetime slot. That's going to be kind of schmozzle there. But regardless, South Florida, Louisville's a really good game with Louisville not having their top scorer. We were joined yesterday by PJ Glasser, who actually predicted a 13-4 upset. I love that about PJ. And he said Troy and Nebraska, and basically he's going on history. Nebraska's never won a tournament game. Isn't that crazy? Nebraska, known for football in the 80s and 90s, and they couldn't have tripped over at least one win in the NCAA tournament. That's nutty. Well, I kind of, for what it's worth, like everybody, like, hey, that's the icebreaker today and tomorrow. Like, hey, how's your bracket? Who do you got? Hey, how's your bracket? Who do you got? Again, take it for what it's worth. This is what I did. I always kind of go to 2 things. Number 1, history, and number 2, Ken Pom. Ken Pom, I just sort it by defense because, in my opinion, teams that know how to play defense can figure out a way here how to advance. And that was always kind of the secret sauce with Boeheim, right? Like, teams didn't know how, they didn't have the practice time leading up to figure out, how do we go against this zone? But then, hey, there was one year where, oops, you faced the Big East team in Marquette and Syracuse gets bounced. Why? Well, they've seen it before. So that was always kind of the little thing that propelled Syracuse along, in my opinion, was that teams never had a proper amount of time to prepare. Well, for defense doesn't take slumps either. As long as you can work and as long as you can come up with stops every once in a while, shooting can go to slumps, defense should continue to work. And I went with a team that is in the top 10 in both KenPom for offense and defense, and they won the whole damn thing last year. That's Florida. So I've got Florida actually repeating, which this will be the second time they repeated. I got Florida over Purdue. And I actually have Kansas knocking out ACC seed champ there, Duke, the 1 seed, because I'm not a believer in the ACC. I think I saw enough ACC basketball to know, like to me last night. We'll get to Miami, Ohio in a second at 866-4326. I've got Kansas advancing, and I've got the other 1 seed at the bottom of that bracket as well. So that's that would be the 4. Why am I drawing a blank? I should have had that in front of me.
Duke?
No, it's not Duke. It's Michigan. Michigan. Yeah, that's it. I have Michigan. So it would be Michigan, Purdue, and then Kansas, and then ultimately Florida. So that would be the 4 there that I have. Tim, because it's your birthday, what do you got?
I did one bracket. I was very disappointed in myself. Hardly any upsets. My final 4 ended up being Houston and Kansas not Houston. Yes, Houston. Houston, Arizona in the final. And I believe I had St. John's coming out of the East, and it was Michigan out of the Midwest.
So, St. John's is a team with wide variance. That is one where could you see them losing in the 12-5 matchup? Yeah, you could. Could you see them going to the Final Four? Of course. Are they really that good? What do we make of the Big East? This isn't, the Big East. When UConn was won in back-to-back years, it was a little down this year, I would say, comparatively speaking to other years. But, look, we're going to have somebody who knows more basketball than you and I. That's Melissa Kuberka, personal friend, RIT women's basketball coach, and she knows her basketball inside and out. We'll just kind of shoot the breeze with Melissa. She'll be coming into the studio. And I did confirm with her today that she's okay. We're on baby watch with Melissa.
Not a bad day to have a birthday.
No, it would be. This time, it would give somebody an excuse, right? Hey, it's my birthday. Let's go watch the tournament every year. That would be coming up here pretty soon here. Melissa will be coming in the bottom of this hour. Next hour, we'll talk some Buffalo Bills, and we'll talk some hockey as well as the tournament. Ian Mills, who's never been on the show before, sports director from News 10 NBC, will be joining us. And you're always welcome to join us at 866-4326, 866-4326. Of course, the area code 585. That is the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. That is actually at the half now. Boy, Ohio State only put up 24 points at the half. Ugh. And again, when I'm picking out my bracket, when I say history, I'm not Big Ten schools. Yes, I have 2 making the Final Four, but in terms of winning it all, the last Big Ten team to win it all, that was Michigan State and Mateen Cleaves. That was 2000. That's 26 years ago. You've got to go back further to find a team west of the Mississippi. That's a nutty stat. You would have figured UCLA or somebody. No, you've got to go back to Arizona. So that's why when PJ Glasser said Arizona is my pick, hey, they're a 1 seed. They're very good. And no, they're not playing in the Pac-12 anymore. They're playing in my opinion, the conference in college basketball. It'd be the Big 12. But I still couldn't do it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
I didn't even do it on purpose. I didn't know the answer.
You didn't know the answer. You got to put it back. All right.
Oh, man.
I'm sure, who's on right now in WGR Buffalo? I'm sure Shope has it. I'm sure Capaccio has it. We don't have True TV here in Rochester.
That's the best.
Come on, it's not the best. So, okay, we'll watch the halftime coverage with Charles Barkley and the crew here.
I've been saying for years, but I didn't know we were affected by True TV.
It's the only time of year you would need it, so I suppose I can't really go into the manager's office and say, we need True TV. Do you need it after this week? No, not really. Okay, then check back with us next March, and we'll revisit then. 866-4326. The Bills news, and it's interesting because I put this out there, and it's a divided reaction, which is kind of good. A.J. Epineza leaving the Bills. Now, the way Schefter phrased it, I mean, this is agent speak, right? It's 1 year up to $5 million, which means, all right, incentive laden, everything else. And that's something where I'm just going to be curious to see how the Bills kind of go about that. We'll talk to our good friend Ian Mills from News 10 NBC about that, because when you look at the Bills' defensive line right now, it's a little thin. And I thought at that value for A.J. Epineza, if you say 1 year $3 million, you're not going to find anything that's going to be that's going to be less expensive than that right now in the free agent market. Just tells me that the Bills are going to have to put a priority on the pass rushers. Of course, it is tournament time, and I feel like I have to apologize to our guest who's coming in studio. You're here, Melissa Kuberka. Let's just get you set up here. I don't want you to wait, Coach.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. We'll try this out here. Check 1, 2, 3. You got me, Coach?
I got you.
You got me.
You got me?
Yeah. Good to see you wearing the Tiger colors. How are you today?
It feels great to be wearing Tiger colors and seeing you. Kind of weird, but I love it.
Yeah, is Melissa Kuberka, head coach for the RIT women's team, and we've done this over the years. We've been out. We got to go back out maybe next year, but like came about and just kind of like, hey, you know what? We need to have some expert kind of come in here and talk. But before we do that, did not realize you were this far along here in your pregnancy. Like, this begs the obvious question. Now, the Tigers, you guys, you ladies got very far there in the tournament, but didn't quite get to the NCAA tournament. What was the plan had you made it to the NCAA tournament, Coach?
The plan was this weekend's national championship and have the baby next week.
I don't know if you can.
So far, it's working out.
It would have been a national story, right? So.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things where we just took it day by day, didn't know what to expect, and made it through the season, thankfully, and had a ton of fun this season. And now it just kind of we switched the flip, and now we're focused on having a baby.
Yeah, this is number 4 for you, correct?
This is number 4.
Do you know yet? What?
We do not. This
You
is
do
gonna be
not.
a surprise.
Okay, surprise.
So, any day now, we're looking forward. to
Okay,
getting this
so
new one.
like that's fantastic, and now you're you would just need maybe your husband can be the 5th player for your team or something like that. So
yeah, we hear that very often of just one more for your starting 5, and I think we have 4, and between my husband and I, we could fill that starting spot.
yeah, as Melissa now with the RT Tigers, year 2 completed for your team. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's a great time of year. I know you're like a hoops junkie here. And you're coming just in a sweatshirt. No like Kim Mulkey outfit or anything like that today.
No, I try to avoid that this time of year, not to get confused with her.
No,
but
it's understandable. Like for the women's side here, we all have fun filling out our brackets with the men's side, but for the women's side, I mean, those sort of upsets really don't happen. Are we going to get to a point, though, in the sport where you will just see more talent coming in rather than, okay, who's going to win it this year, South Carolina, UConn, or LSU? Are we going to get to a point where maybe we'll be, kind of like maybe a dozen, maybe even more teams deep?
I would hope so. I make both brackets, and it's so much easier to pick upsets on the men's side and the women's side. It just doesn't happen. But I think the money has to get figured out before all that. Before we can, really think that a 7 or 8 seed is going to upset someone, the money has to be even. And when you look at what these, top seeds are spending compared to the others, it's just not there right now.
Well, I think it's a problem on the men's side. And the thing here's what I think, because very few coaches, more often than not, you're kind of climbing the ranks, right? And I look at somebody like Nate Oates. He's at Alabama now, and my gosh, Alabama has all the money. He cut his teeth in the MAC. So when I look at a program like Miami of Ohio and how divisive that became on the men's side, your thoughts on this? Because to me, last night, it's not a surprise that I'm like, how did SMU go? I saw them a couple times against Syracuse. They weren't all that impressive. So your thoughts on Miami of Ohio and just, how legit are they? Could they stick around for a little bit, or are they out against Tennessee in the early going?
I originally had Tennessee winning, but when Miami won last night, I switched it. I'm going to have Miami beat Tennessee. I like Rick Barnes a lot, but I think just the way they play, and I think Cinderella stories are fun this time of year. But for a team like them, I know people complain they might not be battle-tested. They haven't had the strength of schedule or all of that, but I think they have the win behind their sails right now, and that they got the win last night, and they're just going to keep going with it. But my thing is when their season does come to an end, how many of them are we going to see in the portal? How many will be back on that roster next year?
Yeah.
And is it sustainable to be successful when you do that in 1 year? You could lose everybody.
Well, we thought this was at St. Peter's a few years ago. What a fun story, but you knew that team was going to get picked apart, and they did, and thinking maybe this will be kind of the new era where you will have these. It's been anything but that. Is Cinderella, it's not quite dead yet, but is it going to die here soon in the NCAA tournament?
I hope not. I think if you look at all the people who want to watch these games, who aren't college basketball fans, but they get into it for those stories, I think the NCAA has to figure it out. Has to figure out a way to reward the players, to reward the programs, but also keep it, something that you draw in a ton of non-basketball fans for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I look at a team like Purdue, where all right, they're a 2 seed, but they've been that's pretty much the team is kind of coming from year to year, and that's not the norm anymore. It's we all kind of like waved our finger at Kentucky years ago for the one and done, and now that's kind of the norm. Like, how beneficial or how big is that, would you say, in this day and age where you're going to have the majority of the players where you have minutes coming back year to year?
I think, for a team cohesiveness, I think it's huge. I look at, at the start of the season, they always show you the starting five and what schools they were at last year and all that.
Yeah.
And it's mind-blowing that they can find so much success with just having the summer together playing. From a Division III standpoint, that's where I know the most, and I would say I can't imagine as a coach having to think that I could lose this team, that I need to, my off season might be spent getting to know players in a couple of days and hopefully being able to put a great team together in just a couple of days. So I don't envy those coaches who are in that situation, but a team like Purdue that can get the same players every year to come back and buy into that tells me that they're doing the right thing, or they're padding the pockets of some of those players.
Melissa Kuberka, head coach for the RIT women. We'll talk some men's and women's basketball here. Your scoreboard update here. And again, we only got the 2 games going right now. Halftime, and Ohio State's in a little bit of trouble, 39-24. And it's Nebraska now up. They've gone on a little bit of a run, the 4-13 game. They're leading Troy 30-19, 5:46 remaining in the first there. And this is where I have to apologize to you, Coach, because we got in here today. We're going to flip it over. Like, we don't get True TV here. Like, this is like, wait a second. Like, it's a new studio, everything. Like, how did we not think about this to this point?
For this week, it's one of the most important channels to have.
I know. Like, I was going to apologize that we only had one monitor, but now we don't even have the one game that's going on live right now. But regardless, we'll keep everybody kind of updated on that. How are you? How's the season going? How did it go there? Year number 2. Where are we at with the Tigers here, Coach?
This, I think, was either year 11 or 12 for me coaching, and by far the most fun I've ever had. The group of people that I had, from coaches to players, was absolutely the best group of people. And, we ended up making a great run. Started the season, I think at one point we might have been like 7-6 or somewhere just above 500. And then we went on a run, won the next 13 games. And it was one of those things where we weren't winning because of, one player or, one thing. It was just a collective team buy-in. We were having so much fun in practice, so much fun outside of the gym. And then when it came to game time, they just put their heads down and got to work. So I had so much fun. Stinks that the season is over. And typically this time of year would be depressing is probably too strong of a word,
Yeah.
but I really miss it. But with having this baby, that's just kind of what my focus has went. So I haven't had time to be too sad. But
I'm happy you carved out a few minutes here today. If you said, yeah, I'm not, I'm due. When is it? You said the 27th?
27th, yep.
Wow. Okay. So have you gone earlier or later before with it?
My first 2 were early. My second one was pretty much, or my third was right on time.
Wow. All right. So
It could happen any second now.
I am not qualified, but see, look out there. This is the weird thing. Outside our studio, there's always an ambulance parked.
Love it.
Yeah. So like that is, I could have just lied and said that's there for you just in case.
I appreciate that.
That's
I just want to put things on my calendar right now and hopefully have to cancel them. For the more I put on, the better.
We're gonna hit some more. We're gonna take a break. You're good to stick around here for another segment, right?
Definitely.
Thanks, Coach Melissa Kuberka, as the tournament is underway. Ohio State down by 15 at the half to TCU. We can talk about A.J. Epineza leaving. We'll talk some Bills football next hour with Ian Mills, News 10 NBC. You're always welcome to join us, 866-4326, area code 585. Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
update.
NCAA tournament is underway, and at the half, Ohio State in a little bit of trouble. It's the 9-seed TCU leading the Buckeyes 39-24. Again, just underway in the second half. Only other game in action, Nebraska 4-seed leading Troy 32-21. 3 minutes remaining there in the first. Action from Buffalo will get underway next hour. It's South Florida taking on Louisville. Sabres after dark tonight. The road trip continuing in San Jose. This is a Sharks team the Sabres just defeated last week. 9 o'clock for the pregame coverage here tonight on WGR Rochester. Bills news from last night, if you missed it, A.J. Epineza, defensive lineman, leaving Buffalo. It's a one-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Get a certificate to Lasertron and Henrietta for half price. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
I asked you this 2 years ago. Melissa Kuberka joining us in studio as, yes, it is the best time of year. We get the tournament underway. Are you allowed to... You're allowed to do a bracket, right? Like, what are the rules when it comes to that, you being a coach in the NCAA?
I can do the bracket. There's no money involved. It's all just for fun, and that is what it is.
Okay, so do you have both your men's and women's in front of you?
Both right here.
Okay,
Yep.
so give me one upset you think is good on each side here. So
On the men's side, I'm looking at a lot of the injuries that are going around.
Yeah.
And actually, I this is not actually injury related, but I had TCU over Ohio State, and I actually remember 2 years ago you talking about how you didn't necessarily think a 9-8 was an upset, but to me, if you're a 9, it's an upset when you beat the 8.
They call that accountability.
Yeah.
wow. I can't even remember what I said yesterday, and you're pulling that out 2 years ago.
It stuck with me because I always felt like when I had teams in the NCAA tournament, if we were that 9 seed, it still felt like we were treated slightly different. You wore the road uniforms, you didn't get the preferred shoot around time, that sort of thing.
So you would much rather, as a coach, be the 9 seed than the 8 seed, just to have that little chip. That means that much?
Sure, it's a little underdog. At this time of year, you'll take everything you can get. Or at least I will.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna take back that opinion I had. A 9 is an upset over an 8 there.
9 times.
Although TCU, it just feels like there are some conferences, and I'm looking at this now. Ohio State's now cut it. Now the 9 or 11. Look at me doing math. 39-28. It feels like the Big 10. They put these programs out there, but when it comes time for a national championship, my point is the Big 12 seems like they're just a little ahead of the Big 10 right now.
Definitely, and I look across the board with the seeding. I could disagree with a lot of the seeding, and maybe some of the upsets or some of the matchups aren't as big of differences as it might feel. I mean, as much as I like Coach Hurley in UConn, I think it's pretty high for them to be a 2 seed. But at the same time, I still expect them to be very successful. Will be hard to upset them for a little while.
Yeah, that's so on the women's side. Give me something that, and we still have time to fill out these brackets too, which is a lot of fun. So.
One thing, one of my favorite coaches is Molly Miller over at Arizona State. They have a play-in game this afternoon, and I think if they end up winning today, I think they're a 10 seed. I'll take them to go far just because I respect her a ton. I'm also a Notre Dame fan, and so I think they're going to make it pretty far as the 6th seed. But again, I think it's much less likely that these upsets happen. I have UCLA and UConn in the final, 2 1 seeds, and my heart is with UCLA. I think Coach Close does a phenomenal job, and obviously Gino is Gino.
Yeah.
But for that one, I'm picking my heart and going UCLA.
For any of these coaches on the women's side, that it's not just years, it's decades we've kind of followed them. Did you ever work any of their camps or ever meet whether it's a Gino or the late Pat Summitt or anybody like that, Coach?
No, I've never had the opportunity to cross paths, but I remember being in 5th grade when UConn made their first run back with Sue Bird and all that. And it was spring break, and I was cutting out the USA Today, pictures of UConn in the paper, and that's when I first kind of fell in love with college basketball.
Okay, so it wasn't like, was it your family, or you just decided this is the sport I want to kind of gravitate to?
I definitely was kind of what I fell in love with. I had an older brother who pushed me in everything that I did, and so when he played basketball, I think that's what sparked my interest initially. But that's what I just fell in love with. And going back to what we said before about this time of year being for people who don't necessarily watch basketball year round, that's what my family we didn't watch basketball all the time, but it was March Madness happened to be on, and then that's when I fell in love with UConn. And I'm not as much a UConn fan anymore just because they're too good. But it's when I first really got into it.
Yeah, it's Melissa Kuberka, head coach of the RIT women, joining us here in studio. If you have any comments, you can hit us up on X. Our handle, WGR Rochester, is our producer Tim mentioned. We're about accountability here on the show. I can't say I'm the guy who watches anything beyond Syracuse basketball here, all year round. That's kind of like the depth of it. Now all of a sudden we pretend like we're experts here. We're not. Like, we're just kind of like everybody else, like following along. We're just hoping for this. But I would have to think you would have kind of some thoughts on what's happening with Syracuse, a program where, wow, I couldn't imagine like back-to-back years not making the tournament. Now we're going on 5. I couldn't imagine, hey, we have a vacancy, but the coach from South Florida turns you down. Melissa, what is going on here with the program?
Clearly there's something going on for Coach Jack on the women's side to come out and really have to defend the men's program and stand up saying they don't have the resources and all that. There's definitely a lot going on behind the scenes there. I have when I was in grad school at UB, Coach Jack was at UB, and the way the gym works there's a track around that anyone can just run during their practices, and so I would run and kind of get to sit in on her practices, and she's tough. She's definitely a tough coach, and so again, for her to step up and feel the need to defend the men's program the way that she did, I'm very curious as to what's going on.
Yeah, it's now that would be a 9-8 matchup for Syracuse, so that would be an upset.
I don't have Syracuse winning that. I went back and forth. I would like it for Coach Jack, but I just don't see it.
So, Melissa, Division III coach, RIT, and this is me talking. This is not you talking. If I had one wish in town, my magic wand, Division I basketball at RIT, but look, that's just me talking. I'm just curious, like with the portal and everything else, and as the nuttiness that's going on right now, or the new norm, we should just say, at Division I, has this come down to your level? Do you see more player movement? Do you see more expectation with students coming in? What is it like now coaching at the Division III level?
Definitely think there's trickle down in some spaces. I'm so thankful to be at a school where academics are the top priority. So when a player does come in, they're in a program, an academic program that they're going to stay in. I think it would take a lot for them to leave. I open the portal and I look in it, not necessarily because I'm looking to find players, but I find it so intriguing seeing who is in there. A team makes a Sweet 16 run in Division II, and the next day 6 players are in the portal. Yeah. And my question is it because they're looking to go Division I? Is it they're looking to go somewhere else? I think there's the freedom of movement is going to affect everyone because players aren't happy or they want something different. It's very easy to make that move. But I, thankfully, being at RIT with a different type of student athlete, I don't think I'll experience it too much.
Yeah, and now this is year 2 going into year 3. How does pretty much like, there aren't going to be any big changes next year. How does the roster looking for your team next year?
We return a phenomenal group. I lost some senior leadership who made my transition incredible, and I'm going to miss the intangibles with that, but the freshmen we have coming in, my freshmen who are growing into phenomenal sophomores. I'm definitely not one to get overexcited, but when I'm thinking ahead to next year, it's going to be a ton of fun.
So we look at some of these other matchups here. Back to the men's side, Melissa Kuberka, our guest here, and it's just kind of strange how like there hasn't been a team west of the Mississippi ever. Is that just kind of an odd thing? You got to go back to 98, or for the Big Ten not to have won since the year 2000. I mean, are any of these trends? Because we've had some people picking Arizona this year perhaps to win the whole thing.
Yeah, and Arizona, I think they are one of the best teams. When people say they are the best, I get that for sure. I think they have a little bit tougher side of the bracket. I think Wisconsin is playing extremely well, and I actually have Wisconsin upsetting Arizona down the line. But I don't know if the Mississippi plays a role in it. But I look at just the East Coast teams, and I'm a big Duke fan, so I'm always going to pick Duke in my bracket.
Well, Duke is. In my opinion, they're kind of tough to handicap because the ACC isn't what it used to be. But then when they went toe to toe with Michigan, it's like, okay, that team can play with anybody here.
Yeah, I look at all the changes within the conferences and everything, and so I think you have to look big picture with who you're playing in non-conference, and how are you beating some of these teams? And I know you said you don't really watch a ton outside of Syracuse basketball. When we're in season, I'm not putting the TV on all the time, but when I'm looking at those scores and Duke's beating ranked teams by 20, 30 points, it tells me they're pretty good.
Yeah, Melissa Kuberka, RIT women's head coach, is our guest here in studio. One of the things, too, that I always feel bad for mid-majors, people are knocking, going back to our Miami, Ohio conversation, well, you didn't play anybody. Melissa, it's not like these programs aren't trying to schedule. Like, for years, Gonzaga couldn't get teams on there. So, I mean, that's a major roadblock when you're in a conference, but you're trying to go to some of these tournaments in November, and you're just not getting accepted there.
Yeah, I think scheduling. I mean, I struggle with scheduling at times. Trying to get teams around here to play us. I think sometimes when you're successful, teams don't want to play you, or they, it's real that the dates don't work out. You're already scheduled somewhere else, and you want to make sure you're putting your student athletes in a spot to be successful. Not too many back-to-backs, and being mindful of your staff and scouting reports. But I think a lot of it is, a loss to a Miami of Ohio hurts you. And so why risk that when you could just go, do an exhibition against a D3, D2 that you're going to beat by 90 and call it a day?
Well, do you agree with the whole quadrant thing with, and again, little over my head, I read about it like, oh, okay, Syracuse doesn't have a quad one win, but that's also part of this too, right? That playing those teams doesn't reward you as you would like.
Yeah, I think it's the rules have been established. It's not like this is new, and so you have to keep that in mind when you're making your schedule. And whether I agree or disagree, it is what it is. On the Division II and Division III side, it's all about NPI, and that's how they make decisions for the tournament. And so if you're not if you don't have one of the higher NPIs, which is based on your strength of schedule, it's based on your wins and quality wins and all that. But I have to keep that in mind when I make my schedule, and so does at the Division I. Obviously, a little bit different with the power index and everything, but they need to keep that in mind when they schedule.
Yeah, Melissa, on the women's side, you had UConn, UCLA. Are there any other, when we're just kind of diving in for maybe some of us who've watched maybe one or two games here, what are some other teams you're keeping an eye on the women's side?
I'm a big fan of the Duke women as well. Carl Lawson, their coach, does a great job. It was weird the other night when Caitlin Clark is playing with USA and Carol Lawson's on the sideline coaching them. I don't know how that looks back in for Duke, what's going on in their practices, but she does a phenomenal job. And I am a big fan of Kentucky. I think their coach also does a great job, and they have a local talent out of Buffalo who, when she was like in 4th or 5th grade, came to a camp I ran. I had nothing to do with her success, but it is fun to watch a local player do so well, and she's one of the best players on Kentucky.
I mean, there are so many players, so many students that you've kind of come into contact with here over the years here too. As one other thought here too for you, because. For the women's game, just to have the WNBA not go away for a year. Your thoughts, at least, on that, because it's something that, all right, maybe there isn't a good baseball game on tonight. I'll put on the WNBA. Now we don't have to worry about that going away, apparently.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that they've been able to come to some sort of answer with everything, and that's kind of how I've always felt, especially, the last 2-3 years of the WNBA. It was never something I wanted necessarily to put on. As much as I love basketball, it wasn't an exciting product. I think the last 2 years it's gotten a lot better, and I'm actually looking forward to it, and with the expansions of teams, more players, more college names that coming in. So I hope it is actually worked out, and we're going to get some games.
Do you have a name picked out either way? We don't know what the gender is going to be. We'll figure that out. But do we have names to choose, or is that a surprise to you?
Well, I hope my husband is listening and he can continue working through his side of things of what name we're going to go with. Think we're good with a boy's name. Girl's name we're still working on. So, and actually back in October, November, when the tickets went on sale for the Buffalo games, my husband asked if we wanted to get tickets, and I said it's too close to when I'm due. But then I thought, you know what, it might be good for us for naming purposes. We go to a game, there's someone we really like and all that stuff, but we're not going to use that in the naming process.
So you're not that was another part of this too. You're not going tonight. You're not going on Saturday.
No. And wish I was. Love being there. We've gone a couple times. And actually, I went back when I was very, very young. One of the first times they had them in Buffalo that I know of. And actually, my husband played when he was on Lafayette. They came to Buffalo and played.
Yeah.
But just with this baby stuff, just got in the way a little bit.
See, Lafayette. I went to a Patriot League school at the time. I'm just like, he's a cool guy.
Not Lehigh, right?
No.
Good.
No, Fordham. But
Okay.
at that point, I think they were already exited stage right there by that point. But I've been to, what's the town? It's the Lafayette Leopards in
Easton.
Easton. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would have gotten it.
I know.
Melissa Kuberka, this is fun. Let's try to make this kind of an annual thing.
Let's
Love
get it
you
on the calendar.
Let's get it on the calendar, and maybe we can work on getting Tiger women's basketball on WGR Rochester at some point.
That would be incredible.
That would be incredible. TCU is still leading Ohio State 43-33. We have the UCF, the South Florida Louisville game underway, 7-7 in Buffalo, 5 minutes gone by, and Nebraska at the half starting to pull away from Troy, 41-25. That would be the first ever win for Nebraska in the men's tournament. Melissa, thank you, and good luck this week, next week, whenever it happens.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we will keep Gene in mind for a name. Don't worry.
I was gonna go with that punchline, but it's kind of
No, we'll keep it there.
like a middle name, maybe. Okay. That could be something too. So, Melissa,
Awesome.
thank you. Thank you. We'll have terrible time. Timmy's terrible take of the day. We'll talk some Bills football. Yeah, we did have the note last night on the defensive line. A.J. Epineza, no longer a Bill. Ian Mills from News 10 NBC next hour. You're welcome to join us at 585-866-4326 here on WGR Rochester.
So much action we couldn't 7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
We will talk some Bills football coming up next hour. Ian Mills from News 10 NBC, as I do think the Bills have a little bit of a depth issue. I mean, a little bit. They have a depth issue. I think that's fair to say. When you see somebody like A.J. Epineza just kind of spring free on the market, and look, if you're going to say you can do better than A.J. Epineza, absolutely. You want to improve in all areas, right? But Breakroom MD writing into me. Epineza was legit awful, Gene. For 4 years outside, 6 years of six. Okay, for 4 years outside of 6 plays, he was a ghost. That's an interesting one. Yeah, and if you could come up with the 6 plays, okay, pick 6 against Washington, demolishing Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that's fair. What's also fair, though, my point is this, and you've got to acknowledge my point, is that do you really think at this point you're going to get someone better than, 1 year up to $5 million? What does that even mean, up to $5 million? To me, that says minimum wage, and here's a bunch of incentives that we hope you hit. And, Tim, I know it's your birthday.
Yes.
Cleveland, like, I'm sorry, that's like low-hanging fruit, but like,
you go where the money goes.
Well, that's it. And when we've had Lee Steinberg on many times, and this is kind of the myth that players want to go where they should win. No, more often than not, who's going to pay them the most money? To the point where it doesn't even matter. Just like, here are the offers. And offer A is worth $15 million, offer B is worth 10, and offer C is worth 8. Oh, I'll take offer A, please. Lee, congratulations, you are an Arizona Cardinal. Like, we shouldn't fault players for that, right? That's kind of the gist. The career span of any NFL player, you're lucky if you're getting to that second contract. And when you do, you've got to cash in. That's why I can't say NFL free agency is fool's gold. It's important. We're not overselling it. However, what's more important, in my opinion, getting April right. Nobody aces the draft year in and year out. That's just, it's not the way it works. For all the science and all the money that goes into scouting, you're lucky if you hit on half your draft picks. And pick any year recently, 21, 22. Go over those first-round picks, and half of them aren't worth it. At the time, they seem great. At the time, and that's the major thing. With the sunshine of the NFL draft, and everybody feels really good about their team heading into the season. We will continuously update you on these scores. We've got 3 games going on right now. Ohio State. Not down by double digits anymore, but 10-20 remaining. TCU is up 49-40. At the half, Nebraska 41-25 over the 13 seed in Troy. And out in Buffalo, all right, this was one I got to admit I picked as an upset just because of the feel-good Hodgson story, coaching in front of his dad, and with Louisville being without their best player. Louisville's actually up 17-9. Again, they're not even 10 minutes into that game early on, so a lot of basketball to be played. And again, I just kind of a little envious that I'm not out there today, to be honest. It is time for our good friend, Terrible Take Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
Well,
But time out before we get to your timeout. What was that?
I don't know what that was.
That is our new contest.
I think I hated it.
And that's our first. That is our first person writing in. That's Brian from Avon. sending in. So, again, you could send this in, and just like how Dan from Fairport was the winner of our new theme song, which, by the way, you will hear at the beginning hour, too. It pops. It moves. It gets all the local beats in there. Would have liked an RIT mention, but, hey, it's free. You can forever have our adulation if you can beat what Brian from Avon put out there. Now, the catch here is this. If you send us something, number one, you're kind of agreeing to us using it. Number two, you're following all the legal guidelines. So you can't, there are copyright laws. There's certain things you just can't take your favorite song and then, use it without permission. No, it's got to be original music or at least AI or whatever that was. And three, here's what you win. Nothing. You will receive no money. You will not get any certificates. You won't even get a ticket to anything, all right? It's just you will have bragging rights forever here in Sports Bar 2.0. Tim, can you play that open again? Because to me,
I would love to.
This fits your personality just a little bit, kind of goofy.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
Good grief. We're going to have...
That's going to be tough to top. I mean...
It's going to be impossible to beat. After hearing that twice, I don't think I can possibly have a take worse.
It sets the bar very low for you. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I can't top that. But before I get into my take, I do want to say, going back to yesterday, we talked about the location of Dayton, and I said Louisville. You said whatever the answer was, Cincinnati. Actually, and I'm not kidding, Muncie, Indiana is the closest city to Dayton, Ohio. I looked it up.
You're kidding me.
I wish I was kidding. No, we celebrate him daily. He is nearby to Dayton, Ohio.
All right, so Chuck Muncie's birthday, which is 2 days before your birthday.
Yes.
Once again, if you're just tuning in, is Tim's birthday today, which means if you are going out to a local watering hole this afternoon to watch college basketball, Tim will be out the door, I guarantee, at 3:02 p.m. following the show today.
2:55.
2:55. You're just going to hit the autopilot. See ya. Actually, you know what? Check that. I think I can take the last second myself and hit the button myself if you really want to get a head start on that. That's a little jarring. But I would say this. How many professional teams are in Muncie? I don't consider Muncie, Indiana, a major city.
Yeah, I guess. But it's got a dot on the map, so it counts. But, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that before I got into this take, which we're about an hour away from tip between Duke and Siena. Siena, the head coach is Jerry McNamara, the darling of Syracuse, probably everybody's A1 now that Hodgson allegedly declined the job. Who knows if it was even offered. But McNamara is everybody's probable number one for Syracuse. He's only 2 years in at Siena. And similar to Hodgson being rejected a few years ago in other places, he's made it work over the last few years, and he's becoming a hot commodity now. McNamara might be ready to take the Syracuse job, kind of like Boeheim did years and years ago. But I think a stepping stone school might be St. Bonaventure University.
All right, so this theory...
McNamara to the Bonnies confirmed.
Okay, we can back up. Where did Brian Hodgson go? Or where did he grow up?
Actually, Olean. St. Bonaventure.
Which coach in the NCAA got hit with an orange or something along like that and vowed he would never, ever, 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 ever go back to Olean, much less schedule the Bonnies to go up? Eventually, the Bonnies did go up, but this program never went back to Olean.
Yeah, that would be Jim Boeheim. And he deserved it, I bet.
So, does that enter Hodgson's, thinking at all? If he is so Southern tier, that's the big program of the state, I'm not for them. I can't see myself, if I have other options, ever going to coach that.
I respect that.
I see that.
That's
to me,
loyalty.
That would be a stretch. That would be like, hey, you're ready to go to the major leagues, but the Yankees don't want you, but the Orioles do. Okay, I'm a Baltimore Oriole. Like I find that hard to believe. But maybe it's kind of in the thinking that if you're doing the, as I put it, the Brendan Franklin close. Okay, positives, negatives, NIL. Can I really win there? Negatives. We're really not competing against Duke and North Carolina in this conference, if we're being honest. Negatives. I grew up hating Syracuse. That last part I definitely don't know to be true. It's just a working theory there on how somebody could leave. That's a good take, Tim, because it's terrible. Like if Jerry McNamara ended up at Bonaventure, where is that? Here's something that's going to make you livid. Is that really a better job?
Yeah.
No. Why?
Of course it is.
Like it's a one-bid league. It's a one-bid league.
They got 2 in this year. They've had 6 in before. Times are changing, but this is, again, it's just a stepping stone. I understand that, of course, Jerry McNamara would much prefer to go to Syracuse, but if he's not ready, you can't go there and fail. They just did that with Autry. So I invite you to keep St. Bonaventure relevant, build yourself up a little bit more, and then gladly go back to your alma mater and lead them back to glory, who may not ever happen again at this rate.
TCU, by the way, is now trailing. So Ohio State erased a 15-point halftime deficit.
Don't call it a comeback.
Oh. And as Melissa Kuberka said, wow, how great was that? See, I've been doing this so long. She came on and she's like, I have an upset. It's a 9 seed over a like timeout. That is not an upset. That's a 50-50 flip. And we argued about that. And now for me to forget that I had that take and for her to remember that I had that take, you know what? I'm going to rule her on her side now.
People don't forget.
Yeah, this would be an upset. 9 over an 8. They don't forget. We will talk some Bills football. We've got other stories. Maybe there's some hope on the way for the Amherst. We'll explain that. Sabres tonight as well. And we'll keep you updated, of course, as your brackets. Does anybody print out the bracket, by the way, anymore?
I do. It's the only reason it's the only way I'll do it.
Melissa did. Did you notice that?
I did.
She had it, but not only that, she had, it's not the laminate, but the sleeve you put it in. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Right there, like the sleeve and everything, where it can kind of, I'm going off of memory what I did, because pretty much, like if you ask me anything, I could remember, all right, the majority of these games that I picked, but no, she had it right in front of her.
Yeah, I was able to grab a photo of it now that you asked me earlier, but I didn't have it in front of me, but now I
This is religion this time of year, Tim. Religion, as you know. You'll be out somewhere enjoying a cold one at 3:05 today.
Yes, sir.
2:55. Check that. We'll talk next here to Ian Mills. And again, we'll get caught up on your tweets and your calls at 866-4326. Gene Battaglio here with you on the all-new WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester.
Hey, the sun's out. Spring, right around the corner. We bet you're excited for warmer weather. But as temperatures rise, make sure that your energy bills don't. Keeping those cooling costs low with Window Nation's high-quality, energy-efficient products. Simply request a consultation where their experts will visit your home, spot problem areas, and make recommendations. Your customized windows can be installed in a day. And once completed, your home will be shielded from outside hot air while you remain cool and comfortable inside throughout the spring and summer. With Window Nation, your house won't just look great, but you also have peace of mind. All the Window Nation's products are backed by a lifetime warranty. There's no better time to upgrade your home with Window Nation in March. The more you buy, the more savings you could enjoy. Up to 50% off all window styles. And be sure to ask about Window Nation's generous financing options, including $0 down and payments as little as $199 a month. Visit windownation.com for your free consultation today. That's windownation.com.
Selena's Mexican restaurant is open Tuesday.
WOCAM WBEE HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
NCAA men's tournament, Ohio State has erased a 15-point halftime deficit. Under 5 to go. Buckeyes up by 2, 57-55 on the 9th seed, TCU. Till their games in action right now, Nebraska up by 15 on Troy. There's 15 minutes remaining in that contest. Out in Buffalo with 6 minutes remaining in the first. Louisville, no problem so far with South Florida, 24-11. Also another game underway, Wisconsin leading High Point 17-14. There early on in the first. Sabres hockey tonight. The road trip continuing in San Jose. The Shark team that the Sabres just defeated last week. 9 o'clock for our coverage tonight. Puck drop a little after 10 here on WGR Rochester. A.J. Epineza leaving the Buffalo Bills. It's a one-year deal worth up to $5 million with the Cleveland Browns. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Stay for a while, you're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coke, it's sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gina Tim F much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres! Bills! Americans! Red Wings and Nighthawks! Sports bar! For Rochester Sports Talk.
Yeah! Fire it up for hour 2. You found us. Tell a friend, 866-4326, our phone number. One thing I've kind of come to the conclusion here in college basketball, and one thing that's a little less fun for me, and maybe you can relate as a Syracuse fan, as kind of growing up in this area, Syracuse, but more often than not, like if you didn't have an alma mater, if you didn't have a team that you were really, really passionate for, we all gravitated to the Orange. Like maybe you were lucky enough to go to an Orange game, or certainly they were always on, right? We would cheer for the Orange, but there was something about the Big East where, okay, when it got to this time of year, you wanted to show the rest of the country that this was the best basketball, this conference. And it was kind of a strange vibe. And I don't know if this applies to anything else like this in sports, because certainly it doesn't apply to the NFL. Like, for instance, Buffalo Bills don't get to the Super Bowl. Screw the Patriots. Lose. I don't care. No. It wasn't the way back then. I know I'm not alone on this, because Syracuse, maybe they weren't getting to the Final Four, but who else was? There's Georgetown. There's UConn. There are these programs. Providence the one year with Rick Pitino. Like, you would take great pride. St. John's. There was one year where the Big East put in 3 teams in the Final Four. St. John's, Georgetown, Villanova. And that you took great pride in that, even though, you know, all the other times of the year, you didn't like those teams. You wanted Syracuse. So this is my point today. That loyalty has not transferred over to the ACC. Maybe it has for you, has not for me. I don't give 2 damns, other than my bracket, what Virginia or what North Carolina or Duke. You mean to tell me I'm all of a sudden supposed to like Duke basketball because Syracuse has been playing there for over a decade now? And it's been that long? It has just, it doesn't work. And I don't know if that's because I grew up there. Maybe you're younger. Maybe you do like, you are pulling for the ACC overall. Or maybe these conferences are so big and bloated. Give him more airtime today because it's his birthday, Timmy Schneider. Probably for the A10, that loyalty transference is still a thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I would think like, all right, so you're St. Louis, you're going to be Go Billikens here?
Not outwardly, but I want them to do well because it means that the conference gets compensated for it. Like you bring in money to the conference, which then goes into the benefit of St. Bonaventure.
I don't think, not from a money standpoint, though. You would just want to see these teams do well because you want to show everybody the A10 is something. Take the money out of it, like just for the basketball part.
I don't really care about St. Louis because it's St. Louis. It doesn't really make sense to be in the A10, similar to like.
All right. Well, okay. So
but VCU, I want to do well because St. Bonaventure plays them well. This year they got smoked by these teams, so I don't really care.
So no, you're not. So you're not backing me up. You're kind of like whatever. That's really what
This
you're saying.
year, but typically I think that from a year, it varies from year to year based on how Bonaventure performs as well. I want the teams that St. Bonaventure played against to perform well on a national stage because it means nothing to nobody, but to me, they do well.
You're kind of answering the question in a roundabout way. Like, you're like, yeah, it's nice, but I don't have any passion. See, like, for me and others, like the Big East, like, I felt invested in all those programs actually doing well in the NCAA tournament, and I'm not thinking one thing about, oh, this might mean more money for the Big East. It was just you wanted to show. I think that all these conferences have gotten so big and bloated that they've all kind of lost their identity, and you kind of said it right there. It's like, what is St. Louis doing in the Atlantic 10? The Atlantic 10, we grew up with UMass and Temple and Rhode Island, like, and Bonaventure, certainly. So, yeah, it's not even recognizable half the time right now. TCU this is fun. This is the way to start the NCAA tournament, an 8-9 matchup that TCU leading now by 1, 58-57. We will keep you up to date on that. Couple hockey notes here before we'll get to some Bills talk here, bottom of this hour. Ian Mills from News 10 NBC will make his sports bar debut. Sabres tonight looking to extend their franchise record for longest point streak on the road. So follow me on that, like getting at least 1 point, but more often than not, it's been 2, right? This is now up to 11 games. That is the franchise record. They set the record previously, that 06-07 team that was a lot of fun. Now it's 11. Sabres looking to make it 12 tonight. Now, while 11 straight games with at least a point on the road is very impressive, and nobody saw that coming. Do you know it's not even halfway to the NHL record?
I know that because I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, 23 straight games set by the 74-75 Montreal Canadiens, who, all right, that's some really – it's not quite original 6-time, but the teams like St. Louis and Buffalo, well, Philadelphia was good back then, but the talent wasn't quite what it is today. Like, there's just much more talent, more better teams, and Montreal was just dominant back then. Some helps for the Amerks today. Gavin McCarthy signed to the amateur tryout for the rest of the season, which is kind of silly. It's just whatever label they want to put on this. He was the team captain at Boston University. The Sabres spent a third-round pick in 2023 on the defenseman. Now, oh gosh, like the Sabres need depth. The Amerks need defensemen. This is perfect. Let him be here and basically give him as much ice time as you want. That's how I'm kind of viewing this kind of move today. It's also kind of nutty, and it kind of puts into perspective just how long you have to wait for some of these players. Like for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to actually pop now when he was drafted 2016. Gavin McCarthy, I have this in front of me right now, 2023. Like the idea that, okay, your draft pick now and we're going to have to wait. It's not like the NFL or the NBA where, all right, well, you may not be like a big-time contributor, but you're going to be on the roster and you're going to help us in some way. Like, Gavin McCarthy is not even on the Sabre roster 3 years later. He's coming to the Amerks. So that's how tough it is to crack an NHL lineup, how much talent there is in the NHL today, or how much talent there is in hockey. And Boston University, yeah, that's a blue-chip program. So good that somebody is coming over from there to help out here. A couple of other notes here in sports. An NFL receiver retired. If you're thinking, oh, bummer. Could have used him for Buffalo. Well, there's somebody that was available in 2025. Somebody who was available in 2024. Somebody who was available in 2023. T.Y. Hilton announced his retirement last night. I was like, what? What? You're just getting around to this now? Now, Hilton led the NFL in receiving yards in the year 2016. His last year in the league came in Dallas in 2022. His last year with the Colts in 21. But apparently he's now just getting around to retirement, which is almost 4 years later, which is kind of nutty for me to think of it in those terms here. The one thing I liked about T.Y. Hilton, too, like he had that touchdown celebration where he would do the T.Y., like almost like doing his own version of the YMCA. So I respect anybody who wants to continue to work. Like some people might wave their finger at somebody like Steve Carlton, who was this dominant lefty for the Philadelphia Phillies, one of the best pitchers in the 80s. And then by the end of his career, he's a middle reliever with the Twins hanging on as a lefty. Like, what are you doing? Sure, there's instances like that in every sport where you have somebody that, hey, I'm going to continue to work. Like, we don't celebrate guys like Yami Yager as we should. We did for a little bit, but like, wait a second, you're still playing over in the KHL. Why? Well, you know what? You love the sport so much, and the stories about Yager where he would skate 2 times a day, work out 2 times a day just to make sure that, hey, I'm past 45, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I've come around. You can change my sports opinions, as Melissa Kuberka did last hour. The sports opinion I had 2 years ago that I forgot about, that 9-8 wasn't an upset, and she made an argument at the time, which I kind of brushed off. And since I forgot that take and she brought it back today, you know what? I will then cede that argument. It's sports, right? You can say, hey, I was wrong on that sports argument. And I had this take about Frank Gore. Frank Gore, who at the time was with the Colts coming in, and it ended up being the snow game, interestingly enough. But I said at the time, like, this guy's a Hall of Famer? Why? Just because he stuck around for so long and he's a stat compiler? Get out of here with that. But then you look at it through a different lens, like, oh, we should cheer for guys like that. Like, I'm not happy. I want to go another thing. I respect this profession. I want to continue on. And maybe that's because my perspective has changed here just a little bit. In case you haven't noticed, I'm in a new position here, 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And I just think that whatever profession you're in, like longevity does kind of matter. So my roundabout way for saying, you know what, good on you, T.Y. Hilton, for just getting around almost 4 years later to announcing a retirement, because that just tells me that, you know, I would have picked up the phone if there was a team that was willing to bring me in. But the problem, you know, is that the NFL always wants younger, and it's tough to get a chance. And maybe T.Y. Hilton was offered opportunities to come in as camp at some point. That would have been – can you imagine that if the Bills, like last year, were like, okay, what do we do now? Oh, boy. Gabe Davis, check. Took care of that. Cooks, okay, check. Hey, Brandon, I heard T.Y. Hilton is still available. Really? You're kidding me. Tim, you say my impressions are terrible here on the show.
Not great.
No, listen. Do you think my Brandon Bean impression is just a little bit in the area, or?
It's a valiant effort, but it's still.
You stop bitching about my impressions. Now I hear you. Valiant effort. Yeah. Speed bump for the Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham has a collapsed lung. That's not good, considered mild. But he's not going to be playing the rest of the season. Good chance he'll be back for the start of the postseason, which will begin on April 18th. Pistons are in first place of the East, 3.5 up on Boston, 24 points, 9 assists. Cade Cunningham bringing to Detroit. And Detroit is one of those teams. Are they ready? 1 seed in the East. Didn't think that the team chasing them, like if you say, who's going to be the team that is right behind Detroit in the East? The Knicks. Nope. Oh, gosh. Everybody's darling at the beginning of the year. Orlando. Not quite yet. Oh, how about Cleveland? They brought in Harden. Nope. Boston. Freaking Boston. Like, wasn't this supposed to be the year that they took a half step back and, hey, if they made the playoffs, great, but there were no expectations, and here are the Celtics just 3.5 behind Detroit, and now Detroit without their playmaker. Here's another thing that sucks for Cunningham, too, and he's not going to win the MVP this year. That should go to SGA, but if you want to present an argument for Jokic or anybody else, I would listen. Hey, running the point, 24 points, 9 assists, that's impressive. But with the new rules in the NBA, which are designed to prevent tanking or load management, I should say in this instance, because Pistons aren't tanking; they're just trying to manage things. Well, this isn't an actual injury, and in order to be eligible for one of those postseason awards, you have to get to the magic number of 65 games played. Cunningham's at 61, so whatever award he might have been eligible for, that isn't going to be happening. One baseball note, and this is that time of year, right? And baseball has a problem. In this era where sports science has never been better, it hasn't. Where you can get an ACL, be back in 9 months. You can tear your Achilles, be back in no time flat. Why is it then that when you look at pitching in baseball, you have all these injuries? And I don't want to, exaggerate this because we just don't know the extent of the injury to Trey Savage of the Toronto Blue Jays, but that sucks. He was the darling of the postseason last year. He's going to start the season on the injured list due to a shoulder impingement, which, okay, that's not an elbow blowout. That's not anything else, but that's concerning. The idea that pitching in baseball right now has never been more of a riskier investment, whether that's you're the team that wants to pay somebody to bring somebody in because you get one thing like that, and there goes how many starts and how much of your budget goes right out the window. Or if it's from a fantasy standpoint. And this is on my mind because I got my fantasy draft next week, and maybe you do too. And if you do, guess what? Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot and also now at The Athletic and the New York Times. And good on Andy. Andy Behrens, great friend of the show, will be joining us tomorrow. And this is one of the things this is the title of his story, right? Pitchers are grifters and loafers. Stop taking them seriously. Right, I don't know if we want to go grifters and loafers, but if you're looking at it from a fantasy standpoint, yeah, in those first 5 rounds, yeah, you might want to avoid a pitcher because I would think there's a greater chance that they might blow up on you. Andy Behrens will join us tomorrow on the show, and I already told Andy too, because he is a Bears fan. He is one of the top fantasy football experts. And just like Sports Bar 1.0, 2.0, we're going to talk a lot of fantasy football. We're not quite there yet, but this one has the Bills overtone. Andy, a fantasy expert who happens to live in Chicago and be a Chicago Bears fan, what does DJ Moore bring this Buffalo Bills team? We'll talk to Andy Behrens tomorrow on the show from the Deep Shot and from the Athletic. We will talk next some Bills football. Stopping in for the first time, Ian Mills, Newsstand NBC, to join us. Our phone number, 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
/Ground Advantage to learn more.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
We have our first final in the NCAA tournament, and yes, a 9 over an 8. We will consider an upset. TCU hangs on to defeat Ohio State. Half-court shot for the Buckeyes, no good. TCU wins this game by 2. Other scores in the NCAA tournament as out in Buffalo, it's Nebraska. Actually, that's not in Buffalo, but Nebraska is leading Troy 70-45. No problems, 4 minutes remaining. In Buffalo at the half, it's Louisville leading UCF 37-27. Again, that is at the half. In this late in the first, Wisconsin is up 39-35. Other games to follow that TCU-Ohio State final, by the way, 66-64 in favor of TCU. We've got Sabres hockey tonight. The Sabres taking on San Jose. Our coverage will begin at 9 o'clock. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, WGR Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
What was that play Ohio State drew up? Welcome back to the sports bar. So it's a 2-point lead for TCU, 4.2 seconds remaining. But you got to go the length of the court, right? All right, you be the coach here. Imagine what the play would be. All right, you're going to have some passing lanes, and you're going to find somebody near half court. That's where the entry pass would be. And literally, it's the guy inbounding the ball, just kind of little chest pass, not more than like 5 feet in front of their own basket. So you still got to go the length of the floor. The guy in front of the basket hands it back to the inbounder. Now the inbounder has to dribble, and he has no one to pass it to. Time's elapsing, and the half-court shot is no good. That's what Ohio State came up with? Yeah, and the look on Buckeye fans was like, you got to be kidding me. So that's, and again, thanks to Melissa Kuberka for pointing this out, a 9-8 game is an upset. First time on the show. Met him last year. He's doing great work over at News 10 and NBC. Ian Mills joining us. This is the icebreaker question, not just for this show, Ian, but for everybody you encounter. Hey, you know, by this time Sunday, people are like, "Hey, how's your bracket?" Today, it's Ian. How are you? Who do you got here in the Final Four?
How you doing, Gene? That's a really good question. Listen, if you're a Rochester guy, which obviously we all are, you got to be pulling for Jaden Bradley out of Arizona. I fully understand that, you know, he kind of moved away, but I think Arizona's got to be in everyone. If you're a Rochester guy, right, Arizona's got to be in your Final Four. I'll go Arizona and Michigan, kind of a gimme pick, so to speak, kind of scratchy. And then I have Florida over St. John's. I don't love Duke's health right now. Out of the East, so I like Rick Pitino coming out of that region and then losing to Florida in the Final Four.
All right, so I do not have Arizona going to the Final Four, but I do have Kansas. That's Rochester bias too, is it not?
It is. Melvin Council, a little bit closer ties to Rochester. Actually went to high school here, but Melvin Council. I like Kansas too. I do have a bracket titled Melvin's Council. With Kansas winning it all. So I like that pick as well.
Yeah, we're just kind of reacting to opening game of the tournament, Ohio State falling, as our guest Ian Mills, News 10 NBC. Let's talk some Bills here, Ian, as, well, ask it open-ended. Everybody wants, like, the big-ticket item. Didn't exactly happen here for the Buffalo Bills, but I don't know what kind of opportunity there was here for Brandon Beane. How would you evaluate the Bills' offseason so far?
Right. It's kind of a tough task, Gene. I mean, I think it starts with them obviously firing Sean McDermott, and now the onus on Brandon Beane kind of becomes a little bit stronger. And we're sort of in this mindset where it's like, okay, can you teach an old dog new tricks? Because the way the Bills offseason has gone the last couple of seasons is calling up former Buffalo Bills that Sean McDermott coached and being like, hey, we need you as depth pieces, right? Tre'Davious White last season. Shaq Thompson obviously played with Sean McDermott back in the day. Jordan Poyer returned. Jordan Phillips returned. Those guys are not going to return, right? They're not going to come back and under Joe Brady, and I don't think Brandon Beane is going to give those guys a call. So it's Right now, the evaluation comes down to whether or not you liked the DJ Moore trade. Personally, I did like it. I understand that you're paying a guy a lot of money who's gonna turn 29. With that being said, though, I totally understand people not liking the price they paid giving up a second-round pick, because now the Bills are kind of in a weird corner where you have 2 picks within the top 100. One of those picks has to be a pass rusher, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would like another cheaper option at receiver. So it comes down to what they will do in the draft, I guess, to totally evaluate the offseason. Yeah, I think what you said, there's no huge splashy move. DJ Moore would have been the splashiest move, so to speak, which again, I don't mind it. I understand the price was high, but it's tough. It's just the way I look at the Bills right now in this offseason is the defense still has so many holes. And they basically have to fill all of them in the draft.
Yeah, we still haven't figured out, all right, this linebacking core. We'll kind of start there. I mean, when you look at players that were with the Bills last year, and we learned A.J. Epineza is not going to come back. And I'm a little surprised because it doesn't seem like Cleveland got him for all that much. But you're going to need bodies here. Has Matt Milano, let's start here. Has he played his last game as a Buffalo Billion?
I would imagine that he has. Just from the way the season ended, he was a Sean McDermott guy through and through, right? That was he was with the draft class with Dion and Trey back in 2017. You know, you're at a rate where, like, I can understand why an offensive guy might return because Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator, but Jim Leonard has no ties to these guys, right? And so, you know, you might think to yourselves, okay, well, Brandon Beane knows Matt Milano, so he may give him a call. You know, as it stands, obviously Matt Milano is still out there, but you look at who's left on the roster in terms of the linebackers. You have Terrell Bernard, who was hurt last year, and then even when he played wasn't great. You still have Dorian Williams, who's going to turn 25 and has 3 years of NFL experience. I think you look at what you have and what you have to draft, so to speak, and I don't know. I'm not confident that Matt Milano will be back in 2026.
I thought there was one signing that just kind of signaled, all right, this isn't business as usual. And the Beane McDermott kind of relationship, and you mentioned it, like McDermott would always kind of lean to the guys that he knew, whether that was A.J. Klein or bringing back a Jordan Poyer. And maybe it came at the expense of, is this the guy that you know best, or are you not taking the guy who's the most talented? Certainly a guy with talent is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's been on the league, but he's bounced from team to team. Your thoughts on bringing in that element, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because to me it's a move that could bring some reward to this team, and since it's a one-year deal, if it doesn't work out, hey, it's easy to kind of move off of.
Right. I think that's the biggest takeaway. And a lot of people have said, hey, it's not like this is the furthest thing that Sean McDermott would do. Sean McDermott wouldn't bring in a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Whether or not you agree with that, it definitely is different. I like it. I think there's high upside. I think both he and Geno Stone, the safety the Bills brought in from the Cincinnati Bengals, they both talked about, hey, listen, this team wants to take the ball away. Like, this team needs to take the ball away more. We heard Jim Leonard talk about that. Like, it's the greatest play on defense is a takeaway. And that's what it signaled to me, was that they're bringing in guys who are, quote unquote, playmakers on the defense. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I think I've heard him described as like a freelancer on defense, which the thing that would scare me with that is that last year Cole Bishop, his best moments were with Jordan Poyer kind of, I'm not going to say directing him, but those two seemed like they were on the same page. So with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I actually do like the move, just in terms of, hey, you're gonna be adding a high risk, so to speak, playmaker, but you only got him for a year, so you're not giving him, you're not guaranteeing him money over the course of the next couple of seasons. So I like that move, but it does, yeah, you're right. It's not necessarily something Sean McDermott might have co-signed. Just from a personality perspective and from the freelancing, hey, I'm going to I know what I can do. I know how good I am, so I'm going to go reach out for this ball. Something that I think Jim Leonhard would prefer, so to speak.
So, Ian, if let's for the sake of this, just things can, and I would expect the Bills to bring in more players before we get to the draft, right? But you have a glaring need right now for bringing in another pass rusher, somebody else on the defensive line. You need a linebacker. I think you need another wide receiver. Right now, I'd like another wide receiver that can actually step in and be in the top three and not rely on Keon Coleman. So what is right now here on March 19th, in your opinion, the top need for the Buffalo Bills?
It is 1,000% in my mind still pass rusher. If you look at that defensive line, Greg Rousseau, I think we kind of know what he is at this point. Good, not great. Bradley Chubb, obviously, gave him a 3-year contract, gave him a decent amount of money. When he's healthy, he's been pretty good. But he's had 3 different season-ending injuries since high school. That's not super optimistic. I'm not super optimistic about that. And then, you go to the interior of the defensive line. Everyone feels great about Ed Oliver, but again, he's coming off an injury. And then T.J. Sanders and Deion Walker. I think Deion Walker is pretty certified, but T.J. Sanders, there's still question marks. So I look at the exterior, so to speak, of that defensive line. Greg Rousseau, again, good, not great. Bradley Chubb, not sure yet, right? Like it's still a lot of question marks when it comes to his availability this season. We think he'll be, he will be available at the start of the season, but just the track record doesn't make me feel super optimistic. Just going into the year, even if those guys all play at their peak powers, if they're playing at their highest possible potential, that's not an elite pass rushing unit. Right. So, and we're not, not everything's going to go our way. So when I look at that, I'm not super optimistic. I still think that you have to go pass rusher with your first pick, whether that's in the first round or whether that's trading back into the second round and getting another top 100 pick.
No, Ian here on our show. I mean, I don't know if you have a draft crush, but I have a draft crush here.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the wide receiver who has Rochester roots, who runs Rochester roots and runs exquisite routes. I'm talking about Casey Concepcion. Bring him back home. Bring his family back to the 585, Ian. That's my crush. Do you have a draft crush at this point?
My draft crush, you know what? I don't hate that. I like Casey Concepcion. My one thing with the receiver is if you're going to take a receiver, first off, I love the idea of Brandon Beane doubling down on wide receiver. I'm probably the 1 millionth person to say it, but they need to get younger, cheaper wide receivers, whether that is Casey Concepcion. I like Denzel Boston. That's a guy you'd have to probably trade up for, which at this rate, I don't think they're going to be trading up for a wide receiver. But, yeah, I like Casey Concepcion. The Bills' wide receiver unit is so expensive right now. Yeah. If you can get younger, just draft a guy in the second round or third round just to lower because DJ Moore – he's basically under contract for the next 3 years, and Shakir as well. So you look at it, and it's like, okay, well, if Josh Palmer comes off the books, are you going to pay another guy that type of money, or would you rather just have hit on a guy like Casey Concepcion early in the draft? So my biggest draft crush, I'll double with you on receiver. I like Denzel Boston out of Washington, but again, that's a guy they'd have to trade up for. Before the DJ Moore trade, I could have seen it. Now today on March 19th, I'm not sure if I see it.
Yeah, I think there's quarterback aside, because you have to do everything you can to find the quarterback. But I think there's 2 other positions that you really need every year to kind of address, because free agency, you're going to pay through the nose here. That being wide receiver, as we've kind of learned, like, okay, you want to pay $30 million for Alec Pierce, or would you rather draft somebody like that in the second round? And as you mentioned, pass rusher. About the wide receiver, we have this lingering issue here with Keon Coleman. Where do you come down on Keon Coleman? I feel like there's more to the story here in terms of like somebody that came in with this big personality, and then all of a sudden, like, the Bills kind of went out of their way to make sure. And we've talked to people like, hey, we don't want him featured on Hard Knocks. We want him focusing on football, and then what really happened with the discipline on that. Or you could say, hey, it's somebody that entering year 3. This should be the year that the promise should be delivered. Where do you think the storyline goes here with Keon Coleman?
Yeah, I mean, when Joe Brady came out and said, hey, the best thing that happened to Keon Coleman was me being his head coach, that's a great sign, right? But the thing is that Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator the last 2 seasons as well.
Yeah.
So, my thing with Keon Coleman is he will be on the roster and he will get a lot of playing time because of what we just talked about, Gene, is that he is one of the cheaper options on this roster as it stands today, and that will not change. So with Keon Coleman, yeah, people talk about maturity and all this, and I don't, I've spoken to him in interviews and things like that. I'm not going to comment on his maturity, but what I will say is if you're late to practice as often as he was, that's a problem. And you're entering year 3, and people are going to say, oh, he was only 22. Gene, I'm 24. I'm not late to work. You know what I mean? So it's the question on Keon really is, okay, are they keeping him out of necessity, which at this rate, it kind of does feel like they're keeping him out of necessity. I understand Joe Brady's comments, but they're keeping him because he was a second-round pick 2 years ago. They they invested that pick into him, with him, I should say. And if you get rid of him, if you get rid of Keon Coleman, the options become pretty thin. So he's going to be on the roster, and he's going to get playing time. It's up to him to figure it out, so to speak. But my fear with him is what it's been when they drafted him. He hasn't separated exceptionally well. Like we've seen the back shoulder throws between him and Josh, and we're like, oh, like this can be a really good unit. I mean, if you remember the Ravens game last year, we thought he was going to be like, it was finally like, okay, they replaced Stephon Diggs. They got a receiver 1 because of how good he was in that fourth quarter. And he disappears down the stretch, so to speak. When I see Keon Coleman, the best plays he's made is when the Bills are down by a lot and Josh Allen isn't worried about turning the ball over, because if he's not throwing it downfield, they're not going to win. And that's what happened in the Ravens game when he had 150 yards in that game, and however many came in the fourth quarter. And that's what happened when he had that back shoulder catch against the Dolphins when the Bills are down big and they're not worried about turning the ball over because, hey, if you don't, you got to take those risks. So with Keon, my thing is he's going to get another chance. Whether people like it or not, he will get another chance. And almost out of necessity, and he has flashed. Those 2 moments I just mentioned, he has flashed. We will see. It's just if he's showing up to practice on time and kind of figuring it out. Again, I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt with it, but last year when Deion Dawkins talked about, oh, he's different this offseason. Oh, he's been working harder, so to speak, this offseason. He's going to be great. Everyone felt great about it. And so we might hear the same exact things these next couple months. It's not going to matter until we touch the field.
Yeah. Ian, last one for you, because there's a storyline out of Buffalo that has nothing to do with football. It's the hockey team. And a team that we didn't, very few of us, I should say, saw kind of coming together like this is. And now that I'm not jinxing anything, this team is going to the postseason. The question is, though, as you know, Stanley Cup hockey is a much different animal. How does this translate for Buffalo, for the Sabre team that, okay, the majority of these guys haven't experienced that yet? Your thoughts on what this will be like here once we get to the postseason?
Well, Gene, as you mentioned, a lot of these guys have not been, in that playoff atmosphere. But what I will say is I feel like the Stanley Cup playoffs, out of every major sporting league in North America, maybe with the exception of Major League Baseball, it does feel like kind of anyone can win in some way, in some capacity. And the Sabres right now are one of, if not the best teams in the Eastern Conference. So I'm not super exceptionally worried about, if these guys have enough playoff experience and things of that nature. What I am interested to see though is that first game at KeyBank Center. How the crowd's doing. I mean, it's been so long since they've had a home playoff crowd, so that interests me. But Gene, think about it this way, and I was at the trade deadline when the Sabres were buyers, so to speak, and they trade the trade with Winnipeg. They trade Isak Rosén, right? Ameryk's leading goal scorer. At that moment, it really hit me. it was like, oh, how many Aprils in a year, or how many Aprils in a row have the Amerks been the story in Western New York hockey when the playoffs go? And now it's like, okay, we're gonna, you know what, like they're buyers, and we're shipping out Amerks leading goal scorer. We're not worried about that anymore. And obviously, of course they are, but it really hit me at that moment. I'm like, oh, this is gonna happen.
Yeah, right. Our attention now is with the big club. And, if we're lucky, we'll get a 4-5 matchup. And if the Amerks can win there, we'll see where it goes. Emails, News 10 NBC. Ian, tell everybody what you got coming up here tonight. Well, we can catch a News 10 NBC here.
Hey, Gene. Yeah, so we have right now. I'm heading to a shootout in Honeyway for our Scholar Athlete of the Week, a little track and field action. But we also have this weekend. We have a bunch of Section 5 high school basketball teams in the state championships. I just did a story with Penfield boys basketball, their first time in the state championship tournament. So that should be really exciting. We have Fairport there, Lions there as well. And then on the girls' side, Aquinas, Batavia, Notre Dame, and Mercy. So doing a lot of work with those schools right now as they head down to Binghamton and Hudson Valley, respectively.
Well, Ian, keep the hustle up, buddy. Appreciate it. Let's do this again soon.
Thanks
for your
Gene.
time today. Ian Mills joining us on the show. Last call is for you. That's 866-4326. Of course, the area code 585 right here on WGR Rochester.
best local sports talk in the Flower City. The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Great show we had today. As coming up tomorrow on the show, Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot. We'll talk some fantasy baseball, get his thoughts on the DJ Moore trade as well. Thanks to Melissa Kuberka, RIT women's basketball coach. Thanks to Ian Mills, News 10 NBC. If you missed any of today's show, well, just download the Odyssey app. Go back and listen in the Rewind feature. Show Up in the Bulldog coming up next for the birthday boy, Tim Schneider. My name is Gene Battaglia, and this is WGR Rochester.